Some houses hold secrets, but the one I stepped into that cold New York morning whispered mine back to me. Before I even crossed the threshold, I returned to New York after 10 long years. The city felt sharper, louder, more restless than the place I had once called home. But deep down, I knew this day would come. You can run from a city, but not from the wounds it gave you. For me, those wounds began in Brooklyn, on a quiet dead-end street where old brownstones leaned against each other like tired witnesses. 3 weeks earlier, my mother passed away. The only thing she left me was her aging townhouse, the same house I had avoided since the night everything fell apart. When I pushed the key into the lock, the door opened with a soft groan, as if it resented being disturbed. A cold draft brushed against my face. The air inside felt ancient, like it had been waiting for someone to inhale its memories. Then I heard it, a whisper, faint, uneasy, directly beside me. Michael. My chest tightened. I wasn't afraid of ghosts. I was afraid of what this house remembered, and what it refused to forget. I stepped inside. The wooden floor creaked beneath me, each sound echoing like an old argument replaying itself. The living room looked frozen in time. The same sagging sofa, the same tilted floor lamp, the same photo of me and Mom at Coney Island, smiling as if life hadn't already chosen the moment it would break us. But something felt wrong. The air grew heavier near the staircase, as if someone had been standing there seconds before I arrived. My pulse hammered as I slowly climbed the steps, each creak louder, each breath shallower halfway up. Another whisper drifted through the silence. Not my name this time. A warning. "Don't go!" I whipped around. Nothing. No window open. No doors moving. Just still, breathless air. At the top of the stairs, my mother's bedroom door sat slightly ajar. I hadn't entered that room in a decade. My hands trembled as I pushed it open. Everything was untouched. Her perfume bottle, her perfectly folded knitted blanket, her rosary resting over the lamp like she'd placed it there yesterday. But one thing wasn't hers. A framed photo on her bedside table. A photo I had never seen. It was me. Older. Standing in front of this house taken from across the street. The time stamp on the back read, "Last week." My mother was gone. But someone, or something, had been watching me long before I returned. The house wasn't just remembering me. It was trying to warn me, and I didn't realize it then. But this house wasn't waiting for me to come home. It was waiting for the truth to finally step inside. Some warnings come as whispers. Others come as proof you were never alone, even when you thought you were. I stood there holding that framed photo, my hands trembling as if the picture itself were alive. The glass felt cold, almost colder than the room. I kept staring at my own face in that image, the confused look, the way my shoulders slouched like I was being watched, because I was. Someone had taken that photo without me noticing, someone close, someone patient. The moment I flipped the photo over, my stomach twisted. A date was scribbled in my mother's handwriting, a style I recognized instantly. Taken 7 days before he returns. What did she mean? How did she know I was coming home? And who took the picture? Before I could make sense of anything, I heard a dull thump downstairs. I froze. Another one followed. And then the soft sound of something dragging across the hardwood floor. I knew the house creaked. But this wasn't the house. This was movement. Slow. Intentional. I set the photo on the bed and stepped out into the hallway. Every shadow felt darker than before. Every corner felt like it was hiding something waiting for me. The air was denser now, like the house was holding its breath with me. I descended the stairs quietly, trying not to make a sound. Halfway down I saw it, the front door, wide open. I hadn't left it that way. A cold breeze rushed inside, swaying the curtains. The street outside looked normal. Dogs barking, distant traffic, a couple walking past with groceries. But inside my chest, panic clawed upward. Mom's old townhouse was telling me something. Or someone else was inside telling me to leave. I walked toward the door slowly, trying to make sense of what I was feeling. Just as I reached the bottom step, Something crunched beneath my shoe. I looked down. A fresh set of footprints, small, bare, dusty, leading from the hallway to the staircase, and then vanishing halfway up. My heart pounded. Whose feet? A child? A woman? Someone hiding? I followed the prints to the living room, but they stopped abruptly, as if the person had disappeared into the air or into the walls. That's when I noticed something out of place. My mother's old cassette recorder sitting on the coffee table. She used it to leave voice notes for herself when her memory began to fade, but the tape inside wasn't one of hers. The label read, "For Michael, do not play alone." My throat tightened. My hands shook. I sat down on the couch, pressed the play button, and waited. A few seconds of static, then my mother's voice, trembling but clear. "Michael, if you're hearing this, he's already in the house." And in that moment I realized the truth. I hadn't walked back into my childhood home. I had walked straight into someone else's plan. Some truths shake you, but others don't just shake you. They rearrange everything you thought you knew about your own life. My mother's voice on the cassette recorder made my blood run cold. "Michael, if you're hearing this, he's already in the house." Her voice cracked on the last word, as if she was speaking through fear she hadn't felt in years. I leaned closer, gripping the recorder so tight my knuckles turned white. The tape continued, her breath shaky. "I tried to keep him out. I did everything they told me. But he always finds a way back in, especially when he knows you're near." My entire body tensed. He? Who was she afraid of? Then came a faint noise in the background of the recording. A door creaking, footsteps, and then Mom's whisper, "He's watching you now." My heart hammered in my chest. I pressed pause, the silence in the room suddenly unbearable. The house felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were inching closer. I stood and scanned the room. No footprints, no breathing, no movement, but the feeling of being watched was suffocating. I moved toward the kitchen, the floor echoing under my steps. The lights flickered slightly. Something they'd never done before. The air smelled of old paper and dust, but underneath that, something else, something metallic. I followed the scent to the back door. The chain lock dangled there, broken clean off, hanging by a single screw. I swallowed hard. That lock wasn't fragile. Someone had forced it, and recently. I stepped outside onto the small backyard porch, the cold New York air hitting my face. The garden was overgrown, wild vines twisting up the fence like they were trying to escape something buried beneath them. And then I saw it, deep footprints in the soil. But these weren't like the small dusty ones inside the house. These were larger, heavy, fresh. Someone had been standing there, watching the house at night, watching me. A sudden noise behind me made me whirl around. The kitchen lights blinked again, once, twice, then died completely. The entire house went dark. I rushed inside, nearly tripping over the threshold. My phone flashlight cut through the shadows just enough to see the hallway. And that's when I realized something chilling. The framed picture of me, the one from my mother's drawer, was now lying face down on the hallway floor. I hadn't touched it. I hadn't brought it downstairs. Someone else had. As I slowly reached for the frame, I heard a soft tapping coming from the second floor, a rhythmic sound. Slow, intentional, tap, tap, tap directly above me. Someone was in my mother's room. My body wanted to run, but something in me, maybe fear, maybe anger, pushed me forward. I tightened my grip on my phone and climbed the stairs, one cautious step at a time. The tapping stopped. The silence grew heavy, like the house was holding a secret it didn't want me to uncover. When I reached the top, the door to my mother's room was fully open, wider than before. And on the floor, illuminated by the faint moonlight, was something new. Another photograph. This time, it wasn't of me outside the house, it was of me inside, taken just minutes ago. That's when I understood. I wasn't just revisiting my past, I was walking directly into someone else's obsession. Some fears live in your mind, but the worst fears, they live inside your home, long before you realize they're real. For a moment, I just stared at the photograph lying on my mother's bedroom floor. My own face stared back at me, taken from inches behind my shoulder, as I stood downstairs holding the recorder. Someone had been in the house with me not earlier, not yesterday, but minutes ago. My throat tightened. I gripped the photo, my fingers trembling. Whoever took it wasn't just watching. They were close enough to touch me. I scanned the room with my phone flashlight. The walls seemed to pulse with shadows, every corner feeling too dark, too deep. The air smelled faintly like old wood, but there was something else mixed in. Cold sweat, fear, presence. I whispered, barely breathing, "Who's here?" Silence answered back, heavy and deliberate. Then a sound, not loud, not obvious. A quiet shuffle behind the wall, like someone stepping gently on hollow boards. My heart stopped. It wasn't in my head. It wasn't the house settling. Someone was walking inside the walls. I pressed my ear against the faded wallpaper. The cold surface chilled my skin. At first there was nothing, then a slow, dragging sound. Slide, step, breath. I stumbled back, nearly dropping my phone. The walls weren't supposed to be hollow. This was a century-old townhouse with brick and beams. Yet now every sound of movement echoed through the frame, and then came another sound, more distinct, a whisper, not my mother's voice this time, not memory, a man's voice, right behind the wall. "Michael!" I froze, feeling my pulse in my throat. How did he know my name? I backed toward the hallway, but the moment I stepped outside the room, the lights flickered once and snapped back on, like the house wanted me to see exactly what was waiting. At the end of the hallway, the closet door was cracked open. A draft seeped from it, cold enough to raise goosebumps along my arms. My mother's voice replayed in my head from the tape. "I tried to keep him out." Hands shaking, I approached the door. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but something stronger, anger maybe, pushed me forward. I nudged the door open. Inside was nothing but old coats, dusty boxes, and a single hook on the wall. But behind the coats, I saw it. A narrow opening, a hidden gap between the house frame and the drywall, wide enough for someone to crawl through, wide enough for someone to hide. I knelt down, shining my light into the darkness. Scratches lined the wood, fresh ones. Breathing echoed softly from the darkness, slow, steady, inhumanly patient. Then from inside the crawl space, a hand pressed against the inner wall. Pale, thin, fingernails cracked and dirty. It slid downward slowly, like whoever it belonged to wanted me to see it to understand. To fear. I stumbled back, slamming into the opposite wall. My mind raced. This wasn't a ghost. This wasn't imagination. Someone had been living inside the walls of my mother's house, and they weren't finished with me. Because the moment that hand touched the wall, I realized something horrifying. Whoever he wasn't hiding from me. He was waiting for me. Some truths you uncover. Others break through the walls and drag themselves toward you, whether you're ready or not. For a long moment, I couldn't move. The hand inside the crawl space stayed pressed against the inner wall, unmoving, patient, almost curious. My breath came out in shaky bursts as my mind tried to make sense of what I was seeing. Who lived inside my mother's walls? How long had they been here? And why did he know my name? I forced myself to step closer, even though every muscle screamed at me to run. With a trembling voice, I whispered, "Who are you?" For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the hand slowly slipped back into the darkness, and something else took its place. A voice. A man's voice. Soft, hoarse, too close. "I've been waiting, Michael." The floor tilted. My legs nearly gave out. I stumbled backward, gripping the wall to steady myself. "Why?" I choked out. "Why are you here?" A low, shaky breath came from the crawl space, followed by words that made my blood run cold. She promised I wouldn't be alone. My throat tightened. My mother, what did she promise? Another breath, then, "She told me you'd come back. She said you'd help me finish what she started." My mother. The same woman who slept in this room for decades. The same woman who looked me in the eyes on her final days and begged me not to come back to this house. What had she been hiding? My phone light flickered as I leaned forward, scanning the inside of the crawl space. Through the darkness, I saw old food cans, a tangled blanket, and photographs. Dozens of them, pinned to the wooden beams, photos of me. Growing up, leaving home, moving states, even pictures of me in New Jersey, ones I didn't know existed. He had been watching me for years. A sudden creak echoed behind me. The hallway light buzzed. Then the house shifted. It felt like something moved beneath the floorboards, not a person, not footsteps. Something heavier, like the entire frame of the home breathed in. The voice in the walls whispered again, this time trembling, "He's coming!" I froze. "Who?" I whispered silence. Then the crawl space door snapped shut on its own with a violent slam, the sound echoing through the hallway like a gunshot. I stumbled backward, and the light bulb above me popped, plunging the hall into darkness. My pulse hammered in my ears as I fumbled for my phone. The moment the flashlight turned on, I saw something that made my stomach drop. On the wall across from me, fresh writing scratched into the paint. Deep, jagged, desperate. "You can't leave!" My throat closed up. I backed away slowly, heart pounding so hard I felt it in my teeth. Someone wasn't just living in this house. Someone else. Something else. Didn't want me escaping it. Because that was the night I learned the truth. The man in the walls wasn't the one I needed to fear, it was the thing he was hiding from. Some houses keep secrets. But this house didn't just keep one. It buried a monster beneath my family's name. I stood frozen in the dark hallway, staring at the scratched words on the wall. "You can't leave." My breathing grew shallow as every instinct screamed for me to run. But something stronger pulled me toward the truth. I had carried questions for 10 years, and I wasn't walking away without answers. I pushed open the crawl space door again, but the darkness inside had changed. It felt heavier, thicker, like something was pressing against it from the other side. "Are you still there?" I whispered. Silence. Then, a frantic whisper from deep inside. "Michael, listen to me. He's not gone. He wakes when you're near." My blood turned to ice. "Who wakes?" I asked. But instead of replying, the man inside the walls whispered something that made every hair on my body stand straight. "The one your mother locked below the floor." My head spun. "My mother? She couldn't. You don't know what she was protecting you from," the voice rasped. None of us did, not until it was too late. Before I could speak, a loud thud shook the floor beneath my feet. A second thud, then a dragging sound, something massive scraping against the underside of the house, shaking the hallway. The man in the walls whimpered, "He knows you're here. He remembers your name." I stumbled back, nearly tripping over myself. "Who is he?" The floorboards bulged upward, just slightly, as if something was pushing from underneath. Dust rained down from the ceiling. The house moaned with pressure. The voice in the crawl space whispered, trembling, "He was your mother's brother." But not anymore. My heart stopped. An uncle I never met. A family secret never spoken. A monster hidden underneath the floor of my childhood home. I backed toward the staircase, my phone flashlight shaking in my hand. Each step I took, the thing beneath the floor followed, crawling, scraping, breathing in long, wet gasps like it hadn't tasted air in years. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, the house fell silent. Then the cellar door, the one my mother always kept locked, clicked open on its own. A cold draft rushed out, carrying a smell so rotten and old that I gagged. My mother's voice echoed in my memory, trembling from the tape recording. "I tried to keep him away from you, but he waits for the sound of your footsteps." My hand gripped the banister until my knuckles went white. I should have run. I should have left the house behind. But I stepped toward the cellar instead, because the truth was no longer hiding. It was calling my name from the darkness below. And as I placed my foot on the first cellar step, I finally understood the terrifying truth. I didn't come back to the house. The house called me back.